Hello for the second Sunday of Lent, using the first reading, Genesis 22, 1 to 18, and the Gospel, Mark 9, 2 to 10. Crazy title this weekend for this homily, and it is Crazy, Kill Your Son. Crazy, he ran off naked. Crazy, don't tell anybody. Sounds complicated, and it is, at any rate. First of all, the gospel is by Mark. And Mark is the disciple who wrote one of the four gospels. And he was the first one to do it. And he did it shortly. The others sort of copied a little bit from him. And he only has 16 chapters, where Matthew has 28, and Luke has 24, and John has 21. He only has 16. He was the first, succinct, the least amount of space or chapters, number of chapters. And this, he wasn't an apostle. He was a disciple. He worked with Paul. And he got into the church. But the interesting thing about this gospel, toward the end of it, chapter 14, verses 51 and 52, Scripture scholars think that this Mark was the individual in the Garden of Gethsemane when they all came and arrested Jesus, and everybody, the crowd scattered, and the apostles and disciples left, and one of them ran off. He only had a sheet on, and he ran away from the whole situation, and they think that's Mark. That thinks Mark's writing about himself in that gospel. I find it interesting. Who else would know that he ran off naked? And that's what it says. Now, a young man followed Jesus, wearing nothing but a linen cloth about his body, like a sheet. And they, the crowd, with swords and clubs, who came from the chief priests and scribes and the elders, seized Jesus, and then all scattered. But this young man left the cloth behind and ran off naked. Now, isn't that something in Scripture? That's the crazy. He ran off naked. Well, another crazy is how people followed Jesus and what they did and what they wrote. And the scriptures are filled with a lot of things like this. Here are all these men and women following Jesus, and then they took off. Maybe not like Mark, but they left. And what's the bottom line of that gospel? I think the bottom line of that gospel is listen to Jesus. Well, the gospel is all about Peter, James, and John going out to Mount Tabor, and Jesus Christ is transfigured before them. And the glory of Christ was shown. He was not only the Messiah, but he was the Son of God. And he's seen there, and they were they were frightened. It was so beautiful, or so wild, and so different. And they wanted to never forget this. Well, I think the gist of that whole thing was toward the end of that gospel, according to Mark, when they were coming down the mountain, Jesus said, don't tell anybody about this until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. Don't tell anybody. I just find that to be a wild statement. Some of those interesting statements in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And here we don't tell anybody. But as far as the gist or the main, This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. Okay? That sort of brings us to the other crazy thing. Kill your son. We go way, way, way back to the Old Testament, to the book of Genesis, the first part of the history of the Jewish people, when God calls Abraham, and in the running of that call, God tests Abraham, and he asks Abraham to kill his only son in his old age. As a test, I guess. But how can anyone ask anyone to kill his only son? And it seems like he listened to God and was willing to do that for God no matter what, even if it was his only son. And as the text says in that reading from Genesis, that he passed the test. And God called Abraham to be the father of the Jewish people. Christ, a Jew, to be the father of the Jewish people. We are followers of Christ, who was a follower of Abraham, and Abraham is our father too in faith. I just find that's another aspect in Scripture where I don't understand it. How a God could ask Abraham to kill your only son. But I do know that this Jesus Christ, not only out and in the cloud or up on the Mount Tabor or in the River Jordan, this is my beloved Son, listen to him. And Jesus asks us to do the same thing, to listen to him. Lent is a time when we try to listen to God. Oh, we don't get wild things like Abraham got, or we don't do wild things like Mark did, but we're called to listen to God in my life. Jesus listened to his Father. He went in the desert last week, 40 days and 40 nights. Jesus continually went off in prayer to listen to his Father. And Jesus asks us to listen to him all the time, but in a special time during Lent. I just want to know, how's it going? Are you taking out some time? Are you trying to do some special prayer? Are you trying to listen to God in your life? Am I? Let's say we're trying. At least I hope so. Some crazy things in the scriptures, runs off naked, kill your son, and don't tell anybody about this transfiguration. I think it might be easier to listen to God today than to listen to some of those happenings in Scripture. Hope you're having a good Lent. Have a good day.